Hello, this is TurboDog702 for the Castlevania Symphony of the Night 80% tutorial. In this section of the tutorial, I'll be going over some of the advanced mechanics that you can do with Alucard. The vast majority of these aren't really applicable to the any percent route, but for the sake of completeness, I figured I'd cover them in case you felt like going into low percent categories, all bosses, or in case some of them become relevant at a later time. Let's go into it. Okay, so the first mechanic that I'm going to try to show you, and I'm going to apologize because a lot of these things are really difficult to do, and even I haven't really practiced them too well for some extent. But the first thing I'm going to do is fire boomerang jumping. Fire boomerang jumping requires you to have 2 fire boomerangs equipped, 1 in each hand. Then all you're going to do is you're going to throw 6 of them, which kind of looks like that, you know? You're going to throw 6 of them, jump, and immediately turn into either wolf or bat, depending on what you need. So let's go ahead and try that. That's what it's going to look like if you do it correctly. There's a very slight example of it with bat. It's noteworthy, as you can see, that there's a lot of visual bugs that can happen with this, and that's just because of what's causing this to happen. It's basically a sprite overload, is most of the things that happen for fire boomerangs. That was an example of it, doing it with bat. Okay, another thing that you can do with this is you can do it with like a back dash. So you could go, oops, like that. That was not a very good one, but you can see that it's causing me to slide even off of the edge when I should normally be falling. Let's see if we can get a good one here. See, sometimes you'll get that. That means that you did either the backdash or the jump input not fast enough. That was a little better. There we go. That's a good one. That's a really obsoleted thing. It used to have its use inside of Pacifist, I believe, but it's been since kind of cycled out. So let's go ahead and put on some different items here so I can show off a few other things. So the next thing that I'm going to cover is going to be wolf rising using a thrusting weapon, like the Claymore, which I have equipped right now. Okay, this is relevant for low percent more than anything else. What you can do is you can do something similar to wolf rising, which is this, if you recall. But you can do it with Claymore. And it's pretty simple. You'll notice all I'm doing is just turning into the wolf, letting it rise a slight bit, untransforming, and then using my Claymore. And it allows me to then use wolf again. But as you can see, this is a way that you can gain height. And this is basically what we use inside of the low percent route in order to complete it. Among other things, obviously. You'll also notice that you can dive kick just like normal. The next thing that I'm going to cover does have some application inside of all bosses, and it's about gravity boots. I'm going to go over a gravity boot mechanic as well. So you'll recall that to do gravity boots, you do down, up, jump. Something to note is that you can chain gravity boots one after the other. However, you can only do that after you do a double jump. So if I'm just doing it off the ground here, I can't do another one until I double jump. But after I double jump, I can continuously do them. So you should keep that in mind if you're trying to do things. Usually when people want to do a gravity boot, usually they just double jump real quick and then do it, and chain it that way. The other thing to keep in mind with gravity boot is that you can actually go side to side with it. And what's important about this is by going side to side, you can actually cause your momentum to do some really weird things. Like, for example, let's go ahead and kill these guys. Like, you'll notice, look at how kind of my angle was when I did the sideways super jump there with the gravity boots. Now if I turn into Bat after doing it... Oops. Oops. Man, I am not doing well here. This is not the best place to show this off, I guess. There we go. You'll notice I went a significant amount more to the right, and that was just turning into Bat. This has a couple uses inside of the route. Primarily, it's used to still use the gravity boots for vertical ascension up certain places, while not bonking the ceiling, because obviously if you hit the ceiling after a gravity boot, it takes quite a bit of time for you to recover. Even if you turn into a Bat, you're still very stationary. Using this technique, you can still maintain some forward progress, and you can set yourself up for positions that you could never do with just a gravity boot or just a wing smash. So, the other couple things that I'm going to cover is going to be front sliding. So, this is really not used too much, but I just did it there, actually. It's called front sliding. In order to do it, you need to have dive kick. And all it is basically if you can dive kick short, like if you do a very short dive kick, or if you dive kick close to where you're landing, and you let go of your inputs, you'll get a slide. And the slide is actually decently fast. The thing that's nice about this, though, is if you slightly miss your back kick, you'll notice that sometimes it'll still actually work. And that's because of the front slide mechanic. There we go. See, kind of difficult to do, but just figured I'd show it off. The other thing that we need to cover is that you can actually extend your floating while you jump by holding the jump button after you untransform. So for example, if I untransform here, I fall at a certain speed. If I hold jump when I untransform, I kind of float, you'll notice, for just a moment before I start falling normally. See, this is normal. Normal once more. And then this is if I hold jump. And one more time. See, so you get a slight bit of floating. That can be used at the very end of any percent for Dracula, but it's not very necessary. The next and last two things that I'm going to cover is actually going to be a big toss and wolf clip. Wolf clip is very, very difficult for me to do. I have lots of trouble with it, but I'm going to try to show it off a little bit, using the most important use of the wolf clip, really, these days, which is the library skip. So let me quickly try and find my items here. So we'll go ahead and put on a mana prism, and I guess we'll put on a buffalo star as well. There we go. Okay, so we're going to try to do a wolf clip here. So the basic principle of the wolf clip is that when you untransform as the wolf, your hitbox kind of disjoints, and with most transformations it can disappear actually for a short time. So what we're trying to do is we're going to run towards any slope that's similar to this. It doesn't have to be this slope, it could be any of them really, as long as they're big enough to be able to clip into. And what we're going to do is we're going to run with the wolf, and once we get to a certain place, we're going to jump, and then right as we're about to impact the wall here, we're going to untransform. Okay, so the thing that's really, really difficult about this is these are what are known as double frame perfect and subpixel perfect tricks. So what that means is that I have to jump at a very specific frame and untransform on a very specific frame in order for this to work. Subpixels are a way to describe a unit of measure that's smaller than a pixel. So you have 1 pixel, and pixels are used to do all the art inside of this game, pretty much. That's not 3D rendered. What a subpixel is it's an even smaller unit than a pixel, and it's used for tracking locations, speeds of things of that nature. So not only do we need to do 2 frame-perfect inputs, but we also have to be on the right subpixel, and that's really difficult to do. Sometimes, like in the case of certain tricks, there's ways to align your subpixels, like for the death skip. Other times, not so much. Like, there's not a best way to do it. So I'm going to just try to do this, and we'll see how well we can do with it. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just running, jumping on a particular place, and untransforming while, you know, running and jumping forward. And it's very, very difficult. Honestly, I would say not worth it until you're getting really, really low times. But it's just something that I figured that I would mention. The other thing that's really, really awkward about this is that the timing in order to do this trick changes based on how fast you're running as the wolf. So for example, if I'm not immediately getting the shadows and going as fast as I can, then it's going to be a different pixel that I have to jump and untransform on. You can pause buffer this slightly in order to get certain ones, but it can be really difficult to do just given that you have to get 2 of the inputs. So let's actually see if I can get this once. I've been trying to explain it. This technique is used for the library skip, a couple things inside of all bosses, and for an outdated form of the Richter skip. And I am not very good at this, as you can see. Oh man. Rip everything. I'm also getting really far off on some of these. Like, you have to be a lot closer than I'm actually doing here when you do your initial jump. And unfortunately, the map is kind of in my way, or else I would use map buffering a little bit more. See, that was kind of close. You'll notice that the camera kind of jitters when you're close to doing this. Man. I really want to get this. I'm going to actually go onto a different file, because I've showed all the things that I need to show off in this file. So I'm going to go to one of my library files that has less of the map covered, and I'm just going to do a map buffer to show this off. Ideally, you would want to do this trick without map buffering, as you would with any trick, but yeah, I'm not very practiced in this, so I'll take what I can get. Okay, let's see if we can get it. That's too far. It's way too far. See, even with map buffering, I still can't guarantee that I'm going to be going at the right speed or be on the right subpixel, so it's still really difficult to do. I mean, I guess if you're taking anything away from this whole video on advanced mechanics, it's that wolf clip is hard, try not to do it. Until you absolutely have to, of course. Man, this is this is abysmal. There we go. Okay. So finally, after, you know, probably a few minutes of tries here, we managed to clip into here. So the reason why this is important is a lot of things kind of can happen inside of here. With this thing, for example, whenever you transform and you're inside of something, the game naturally wants to zip you downward. But obviously it can't do that because we're at a place where it really can't zip us anywhere by going down. So at this point we would go Mist Bat, and we'd end up down here. At this point we're out of bounds underneath everything, and we'd be doing wing smashes across. And this is kind of how the library skip works. At this point, if you just untransform, you can't move at all, and you can't use items. So what you need to do is you need to turn into a wolf, then untransform from wolf, and then you can use items. Then after we do that and gotten our mana back, we would continue on. And there we go. We got out of the library. So the thing that's really good about the library skip is it can save optimally 10 seconds if you do it without buffering on the first attempt, and you don't screw up when you're underground. When you're underground, it's actually kind of difficult because your wing smashes feel shorter, I want to say. And on top of that, there's a lot of transitions in there. But that's the basic about Wolf Clip. Basically, you're running at a slope. Like, even these ones it works on. But you're basically running at a slope, jumping very close to the stairs, and then untransforming when you're basically inside of the stairs as the wolf. And you can clip inside of them. And that has a few uses. There's a particularly really useful clip inside of all bosses as well. It saves about 30 seconds or so. The last thing that I want to cover is what's known as big tossing. And I think the best way to show big tossing is probably to go to the end of the game and get hit. So let's see here. So in this game you'll see I have 320 health. Let's see if that's enough for me to be able to get big tossed. What big toss is, very simply, is when you take more than half of your health and damage in a single attack, you get tossed very, very fast across rooms. And the most important use of this is inside of luck mode, when you're trying to skip the game and get your gear back, or basically skip death, using a big toss in luck mode. It also has use in the newly formed arbitrary code execution any percent that's kind of come to light over time. But I'm going to see if I can get hit for half of my health here. Hopefully this guy stops doing that and starts swiping with his sword. Ugh, but it doesn't look like he's going to. Like a jerk. Yeah, we're not going to take enough damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for another file. If I can't find one really quick, then I'll go ahead and just start up a luck mode. Puzzle, Richter skip, percent. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do a luck mode. Mode start. Relic. Maybe this would be good, actually. Yeah, we have 323 on this one as well. Okay, so that's unfortunate. We kind of have to mess around with this a little bit in order to get an appropriate file. Yeah, not really much we can do. So I'll just show off a big toss real quick. Pretty straightforward how it works. If I can remember what the code is. Let's see. I believe it's X-X exclamation point V. Okay. X-X exclamation point V Q. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go through the intro real quick. Apologies. I don't need to do anything special here, so just kind of rushing my way through it. So we didn't get any quick kills, which is awesome also. We're also kind of stuck in the corner here. I've never had that happen. It's kind of cool. And by cool, I mean pretty frustrating when you're trying to show people stuff, but I didn't know that was something that could actually happen. Like, I would have thought that they would have kind of programmed that out. Okay, so we're inside of luck mode right now. And I'm actually going to do this section to skip death here as an example. We currently have 25 health. So in order to big toss, we have to take more than half of our health in a single hit, so we have to take more than 13 or more damage. I believe the game rounds up for it. Maybe not, though. This will be kind of nice also because I'll be able to show the main reason why big toss is kind of relevant. But if you ever see this inside of a tool-assisted speedrun or something, this is basically what's happening. So I'm going to jump over him. I'm going to unequip all of my defensive items so I get hit for enough damage. And then I walk into the warg. And since I took 20 damage, that's far over half. It made me just, like, fly sideways. So big tosses give you enormous amounts of momentum. And they will continue to make you fly until you impact with something. For example, I hit the roof of the screen before here with death in it. And that's what happened there. This can be used, as I mentioned, for arbitrary code execution, which is a separate category from the one that I'm covering here, which is no save corruption. But that should do it for the advanced mechanics, so I'll go ahead and make sure to update if there's anything else that I feel like might be important for people trying to run this game. But for now, that's going to do it. This is TurboDog702 for the Castlevania Symphony of the Night Any% tutorial.